Hi, and welcome to today's live on the Buzz with Busy Crochet. I'm still getting used to saying that, so forgive me for stumbling over it. But today we're going to be talking with Nicky Avery from Avery Lane Creations. And she is based out of Mississippi, and we've had the best time chitting and chatting for the last half hour or so. But I just want to get some business out of the way real quick before we go on with that. If you're watching the replay, let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, all of Nikki's information is going to be linked below so that you can find her. And if you want to be notified about new videos and interviews, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Alrighty, I'm going to bring Nikki in now so that we can start our interview with her. And give me just a moment. Hi,
Hey,
Nikki. Thanks
thank,
so much for joining me today on the Buzz with Busy Crochet.
thank you for having me. I am so excited.
I gotta get that off there. I've got a permanent comment that keeps showing up every time I start these videos, and it's for something that's in the past. So,
Oh, whoops.
alrighty. So let's find out about Nicky Avery. Um, you are in Mississippi, but are you a native of Mississippi? Have you always been there?
No, I actually grew up in Northern Illinois, and I am not okay with the mess that we have going on right here. We are in the middle of an ice storm, and I am not okay. I have one of my Northern friends that's like, "You grew up, you're a Northerner." And I'm like, "But I've been in the South since I was 13." So,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm giving 40 a hug.
I've been in Florida for 12 years now, and you just get out of it. I used to live in Wisconsin and for like 36 years, and you just get used to the warmth and the no ice.
Yes. Yeah. I don't even
You're-
like snow anymore. I mean, it's pretty, but I don't want it where I live.
oh, it's pretty from a distance.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love looking at it and all the pretty pictures that people take of their backyards. That looks wonderful. I'm so glad I'm not in it though.
Yes.
Alrighty. So, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Anything that you're comfortable with sharing. Like, tell us about your family. All of that kind of stuff.
Well, I am married to my best friend, and we just figured out like a couple of weeks ago that this will be 10 years that we've been married. We're like, how did that even I
That's awesome.
don't have any relatives in Mississippi. It's just me. So I have my husband and his family,
Uh
and
huh.
then family that's kind of scattered all over. I have some in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and my mom and my brother live in Phoenix. So
Okay.
vacation for me is going to see family.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it gets to be, kind of when you're the one that moves away,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so you have a yarn dyeing business, but you're also kind of a crochet designer, and you've just taken up knitting. Am I right?
Yes. I'm
Okay. Is
myself.
that something that you plan on branching into as well?
I think knitting's just going to be for me. I
It is
don't
for me too. I'm not a knit designer.
knitting patterns don't have enough words for me. I need words, especially when like if you use one of my crochet patterns, there's a lot more words in there. I don't know why. I just feel like there needs to be more words. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the reasons I love knitting so much is because as much as I love crocheting and dyeing yarn, it's a business now. And I feel
Yeah.
like when I'm crocheting, it needs to have a purpose. Like I need to be using some yarn that I dyed or
Oh, I understand.
pattern to promote them. And with knitting, it's just something that I can enjoy and kind of turn business mode off. So I
Mhm.
think that's one of the reasons I love it so much.
That's awesome. So tell me about your yarn dyeing. We're here. I'm sorry. I'm a habitual cleaner upper when I'm a, you just clean up your space around you. Anyway, sorry about that. So yarn dyeing. I watched you start as just a hobbyist because you and I have been following each other for several years. We used to be in the same coaching group years ago, and I watched you start your business there. And I've watched you take it from this hobby that you were doing and just kind of starting out with and playing with and coming up with different colors and stuff like that. And now you've turned it into this business. I mean, like, it's an amazing business. And I see you growing all of the time. So, can you tell me a little bit, like, how did you even get interested in yarn dyeing?
Well, I live in the sticks and I was a yarn snob from day one when I started crocheting. It's a tech,
Okay.
and I think it has to do with my ADHD.
Okay.
But I just cannot work with scratchy yarn.
Mhm.
And where I live, basically my yarn options was Walmart. And the Walmart that I
Mm.
have, the yarn aisle is so sad. So I would have to order online. And you know how it is when you order online. Like sometimes the colors just aren't what you
Yep.
want. And in order to actually go to a yarn store, I would have to drive over an hour. Well, with my full time job and stuff like that, it just wasn't feasible to drive an hour to a craft store and then an hour back home. So I was ordering a lot online. And then I noticed that I would see a color and I'm like, oh, I love that. But I wish that this color would be this color. And
Yep.
yes. So I did what
Mhm.
I normally do, and I like went down the rabbit hole of like learning all the things.
Okay.
But I tend to just like know a lot, but not do a lot, you know? So I think I had like some birthday money. My birthday's in September. And so I think I had some birthday money left over. And I was like, you know what? I want to dye yarn because I have been stocking all of these yarn dyers and I'm a crocheter. So I like thicker weight yarn, mainly worsted weight.
Mhm.
But no yarn dyers had worsted weight. They had like DK or fingering weight. And I would just get so
Yeah.
frustrated, which they don't know. They mainly, targeted knitters. So I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. So I took like my birthday money and I bought like a sample pack. And I'll never forget, it was like December of 2019. I'm in my kitchen and I have a YouTube video up and I'm like looking at the YouTube video and dyeing my first hank of yarn. And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was hooked from then. And then I started going live on my Facebook page because I'm like, my
I
husband,
I remember that.
yes. And my husband didn't get, so I'm like, I need people to understand my excitement. So I started going live and just learning as I went. And I'll never forget, it was like a couple weeks after that, somebody's like, are you going to sell your yarn? I'm like, no. Why? This is like, I don't want to part with it. And then a little bit after that, I'm like, okay, this is going to be an expensive hobby if I don't start selling my yarn. So I had the same, I think it was the same girl. And she's like, will you sell me that yarn? It hadn't even dried. She just wanted to buy it out of the dye pan. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
but I don't know how. And so she's like, put it in your Etsy shop, sell it to me for this price. And like, and it was just on from there. And then I was like, okay, so I was selling the yarn to feed my yarn dyeing addiction.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, I wanna know kind of about what products do you use in your yarn? Because I have this outside interest of wanting to learn to dye yarn, but I'm the girl who would learn all the stuff and not do the thing.
Yeah.
So, um, what do you use? Like, do you prefer acid dyes? Do you prefer, I don't know what the other names are, but like, what are the different things that you do and what do you prefer to use? Because I find that fascinating that there's so many different kinds of ways to do things.
There really is. And I use wool. I use a wool base. So you do need acid and then it needs a mordant. It needs something to make it's almost like if you paint
What
furniture.
does that mean?
It's like if you paint furniture, like if you just went in your living room and slapped some paint on a piece of furniture, it's really not going to stick. So
Okay.
you need something like it just left me. What is it called? Oh my god,
I wanna say a base,
primer.
primer.
Yes. So the mordant is like a primer. So
Mm.
I use citric acid. You can use vinegar.
Oh,
Citric acid makes the yarn acetic, which makes the dye adhere to it, and then you heat it up and it sets
okay.
those dyes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
Okay, so you do specifically use more of the acid dyes?
yeah, I just about only use acid dyes. There's some fiber reactive dyes that I like to use. I mainly use Dharma dyes. That's from a company,
Okay.
Dharma Trading Company. But a couple years ago, dyer friend and I were talking, and she was telling me about Pro Chemical and Dye, and I love their dyes too. So I kind of
Mhm.
have a mashup between those two. My favorite, like wool base, I feel like all dyers go through this. Like when
Mhm.
you're first dyeing yarn, you want to try all of the different yarns. Um,
Mhm.
but I mainly keep 3 different bases, and it's a worsted weight base that's 100% superwash merino wool, and
Mhm,
then I have a DK, which isn't like a number 3, and then I have a sock weight base, and
mhm,
that's 85% superwash merino wool and 15% nylon.
mhm.
And I really like, so I've kind of just stuck to those 2 bases for dyeing. So
Okay, okay. So you have the 3 different kinds available. You've got worsted, you've got, DK, which is see, you and I were talking before we started doing this video, and you said that you really like worsted, or wait, maybe you said it in the video. We've talked so much, um, that worsted is where you really like, and then I know you just recently tried DK because I paid attention to that too, because DK became my favorite over time just because of the drape and how nice it is to use. And, you've got the DK and then you've got the sock weight as well. And you have a video, or not a video, but a website that people can purchase all of these yarns at, correct?
yes, it's alcyarns.com.
Okay.
It's hard to keep yarn in stock because I have a monthly yarn club and I spoil them and they get first chance at any extras that I have. So
Mhm.
it rarely, my way of saying it, it rarely makes it out of the yarn club alive. So what I do have, and I do have some in stock now, but that's where they would be able to find some.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your yarn club. I just got the chance to sign up for it. I've been waiting for it to open up again, and it happens to be open right now, correct?
Yes, it's open until Saturday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, and so for anybody watching this on replay, this is February 4th, I believe, 2023 that it's open to, but she does open it periodically. So, should they go to anywhere in particular and sign
They
up?
go into the yarn shop and click on yarn club, and at the
Mhm,
top there'll be information to join a waiting list,
mhm,
because there's times like between, I usually only open about 4 times a year, but if I order too many extras or somebody leaves, I will send a message out to my wait list first, and they get first chance at any spots that open.
mhm.
So
And I think that's how I don't know if this was one of your planned openings or not, but that's how I found out that your yarn club was open, is because I joined the wait list. So, I mean, she doesn't spam you. She doesn't, send you all kinds of emails or anything like that. She just lets you know, hey, we're open. And if you want to join the club, here you go. All right, so let's talk about your crocheting just a little bit. I know that you are also a crochet designer as well, and you do have a few patterns. I have not looked at your total, like how many patterns you have or anything like that. But tell us a little bit, like, how did you start crocheting?
okay, so I started crocheting. Okay, the third time, the time that it stuck was in 2016. But
Uh-huh.
always been interested because my grandma Morton was a crocheter and a knitter. I only remember her crocheting, but my aunts were telling me that she knit too. And now
Mhm.
that I remember, like the washcloths or dishcloths that I used when I was a kid, they were
Mhm.
actually knit. Now that I
Yeah.
know the difference. But I remember she used to make us these slippers that she made one size and they fit everybody. So as a kid wearing these slippers and like sliding across linoleum floors, and um in her bedroom she would have these dolls that I meant to bring one in here. I got one of hers
Mhm.
now. But she had these dolls that she would crochet, like these dresses, these umbrellas, the shoes, the hat, just everything
Oh, wow.
on her bed, like on her bedspread.
Mhm.
So I was always kind of interested. And I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I remember my grandma Delia actually taught me how to chain and then how to go back through the first row. But I knew how to chain. I could chain like a champ. But after that, it was just a no-go. And I
Mhm.
remember my mom working with me a little bit too. She kind of remembered a little bit from like home ec. And I finally just got frustrated because I'm like, I can make a chain from here to China, but that's all I could do.
Yeah, it's not helpful.
No. And then in my 20s, I was like, I think I want to crochet. And this was like right before YouTube became a thing. I know I'm age
Okay.
myself. So I did what you could do back then. I got a book, and I'm like trying to learn from a book. I do not learn that way. And everybody was like, you just need to do granny squares. You just need to do granny squares. And I'm like, I don't want to do a granny square. So finally I put all that stuff back, and then it was I think my early 30s. I was at a family get together and my aunt was crocheting and I always loved her crochet washcloths. And I just remember sitting there and looking and just being mesmerized. I'm like, you know what? I need to try this again. So I went home and she actually come to visit like a couple of months later and she was left-handed. So I would just kind of sit across from her and just kind of watch her.
Okay.
She showed me a couple of the basics. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it work this time. How was I trying to learn before and what can I do differently? So this time I'm like, I'm going to get on YouTube. I got the biggest crochet hook I could find in the thick line because that was my biggest struggle was holding my work and seeing what I was doing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn this way. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and make these little squares that are going to do nothing. I'm going to pick a project. I'm going to be just dangerous enough to get that project done and then learn from there.
Oh,
So
good for you.
yeah, and that has kind of been my motto about learning things now. Like with knitting,
Mhm.
I jumped in and I remember I knit my first shawl and like halfway through, I'm like, I don't know how to finish it. Like when I'm done, I don't know how to bind off.
Oh,
Like in
that was a hard thing for me to learn at first too. You should have seen me when I was binding off something when we were driving. When we lived up north in Wisconsin, anywhere you went, it was a drive. So I would knit, my mom would drive, whatever. I remember I had these great big needles and I was holding one in between my legs and I was doing things with both hands with the other one so that I could bind off because I had no idea what I was doing. Just it's amazing the things that you learn and perfect and get used to and what you have to go through to learn how to do stuff sometimes.
yeah, but my personality is I feel like I need to know everything about
Yeah.
crocheting or knitting and then start the thing. And that's why I was never getting
Oh.
and it was so I would overwhelm myself before I ever got started. And so now I'm just like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it, but I'm going to jump in and try because I
Mhm.
don't know until I try.
Absolutely. I totally get that. My husband is very much like that. I'm a little bit more fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to things. I'll try stuff and my impulsiveness gets me in trouble a lot of the time. But my husband is a procrastinator because he likes to I have to know everything. I have to know what's going to happen. I have to know what the outcome is going to be before I try it. And so he will a lot of times not do anything to the point where like I'm about ready to push you off the cliff with a parachute because we got to get going here, but we can be both slow and we can be both fast. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, but like, we don't have to let our personalities hold us back as far as starting our craft or what we want to learn or what we want to do. What advice would you give anybody that wants to learn how to dye yarn or get into that line of work? I know that, some people want to start businesses and want to not necessarily because they'll look at the crochet world and they'll say, but there's so much competition out there. What would you say to somebody who is looking at either crochet or um, yarn dyeing as a potential business?
I think the first thing that I would say is you've got to change the way you think about it. You cannot you cannot jump in and compare yourself to others because you don't know what they went through to get there. And
Mhm,
to be honest, I've had like a side business since I was probably 18. And
mhm,
all of those businesses failed. And I know I had the potential to take them further, but I stood in my own way because I would see other people doing the same thing and I would compare myself and I would fall short every time because we're our own worst critic. So I
mhm.
the first thing that I would say is when you start fixating on something, all of a sudden you're going to notice everybody else doing it. But that doesn't
Yeah,
mean that there's not a place for you in that world. So so I think the first thing I would say is change the way you think about it and don't be afraid to fail. It's in our failures, it's in those mistakes that we learn the most.
mhm.
And I think that was another thing that I had a lot of trouble with is I didn't want anybody to know I was a beginner. Like I wanted to just be excellent right out of the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
But we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes.
I absolutely agree with you there. And being an impulsive person, I've had a lot of mistakes. So I completely like I get that exactly. So when you have people that come and join your yarn club, you do have a group that you have that supports this, correct?
Yes. And I was going to say that too, that the other part of, especially if you're turning a hobby or a passion into a business, you have to have that attached to something that's bigger than yourself. Um, I started my yarn club in May of 2020, like slap dab in the middle of a pandemic. And um, it sounds so, you see from the outside looking in, you're like, wow, this is amazing. And it sounds so much fun, but it's a lot of hard work. And
Hmm.
sometimes you're going to give up on yourself. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to second guess yourself. But I'm not going to give up on those girls. Like
Hmm.
I'm not going to rob them of their squishy happiness every month because I'm
Hmm.
having a hard time. And so in May of 2020, I launched my yarn club. And in March of, well, it was in January of 21 that I resigned my position as a 20-year pharmacy technician, and
Wow.
that job in March of 21. And you just think you're going to have so much more time, and you're going to take your business from here to here. And let me tell you, there were some hard times that I was like, I just need to go back to work. But it's because I had it attached to something bigger than me that I didn't give up.
Hmm.
And so I think that is where I was missing the mark so many times in my previous businesses, is that now it's like, I'm not just doing this for me. I'm using my business as a way to like serve others and bring them
Hmm.
joy with my yarn or with my crocheting or with my pattern designs or just posting something funny on Facebook. And
Hmm.
that's going to get you through the hard days.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you because when you do decide to become full-time for yourself, it's a different set of struggles that you deal with than when you're at your work, because at work you can always say, "Oh, well, my job this, my job that." But when you're working for yourself, it's like, "Well, wait, I can't blame my job anymore because I chose this."
Yes.
You know, I decided I was going to do this. And so you have to, you know, face yourself in the mirror pretty harshly.
Yeah.
And I know that when for a period of time there, I went through a pretty dark depression where I just wanted to walk away from it all and I wanted to quit. And you know, I bless the friendships that I've made through the yarn community, because it was one of my very good friends who was always there to encourage me to start again. Start again, don't give up. Just start again. Well, maybe you don't have the energy or the brain, you know, because I had tended to deal with overwhelm. Like we were talking about that earlier. When you look at a project and you get overwhelmed by the whole thing, and that's where I looked at it as my business. And so I would deal with this overwhelm. And so my friend helped to direct me and say, well, don't look at the whole thing. Maybe don't do the big project. Maybe just break it down into baby chunks
Yeah.
that you can take and use, you know, like, and to just start moving forward. And so, you know, I hear a lot, not I hear, I read a lot online, you know, how like craft is therapy or crochet is therapy. You know, did you also find that as well? I mean, as far as using the craft, the making of the yarn, the ability to use your creativity and all of that to help you kind of move forward, to heal and to kind of, you know, get yourself in a new place.
Oh, for sure. And part of the reason, and I actually don't share this story,
Mhm.
part of the reason I started crocheting is to deal with stress.
Mm.
In 2014, it was a hard year for my family, and I'm one of those people that I pick up on other people's emotions. I feel like I hurt so much
Mm.
family, and when I'm grieving or upset or something, it's just I go, 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 and I pour into all these other things, and I
Mhm.
take care of myself. And
Mhm.
so I finally just woke up one day and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I'm not happy. And I'm not, I wasn't dealing with the grief. I wasn't dealing with stress very well. And I
I
needed
know.
outlet instead of coming home and drinking a glass of wine every night. Because there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with drinking wine, but I'm a lightweight. One glass of wine and I'm gone.
I
And
know that would be me too. I don't even bother with it.
I
I
don't,
would be I would be under the table every night.
yeah. And so even though that was like kind of my way of unwinding and stuff like that, I'm like, I'm tired of waking up every morning just feeling rough, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's got to give. And at the time, I was painting furniture and things like that, but that was getting off work and then doing manual labor.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't handle that. I needed something that I could sit and spend time with my husband. And that then I saw my aunt crocheting at a family get together, and I made my decision. I was going to come home and I was going to learn that. And you know what? Like, you're not going to drink wine because let me tell you, wine and crochet does not mix, especially when you're a beginner.
No.
Throw yarn away. It was bad. And
Oh,
so
no.
it kept me from unwinding with a glass of wine
Mhm.
or, whatever. And I did that, and it turned into this thing where it was like, I finally got still for the first time in a long time, and I could kind of
Mm.
process those emotions and things like that. And so it was very much therapeutic for me. And then I was getting excited about crocheting. And so I started a Facebook page and I started a community,
Mhm.
and then all of it just led into the yarn dyeing.
Yeah. I see a lot of your projects made with your yarns and stuff like that. And you make a lot of yarns that are in kind of a calming tone. I mean, like the ones that you did for Valentine's and stuff like that, they're very, very happy, loud. I want to say loud tones, but not loud. You know what I mean?
The
They're
bright hat.
brighter. They're brighter. Yeah. But you tend to use a lot of the pastelish tones. Do you find yourself leaning more towards one color palette than another when you are doing your dyeing?
Yes. There's times I've had to hide blues for myself because I love to mix blues, purples, pinks. Like, those are like my go-to. Um,
Okay.
Brown. I'm not a big fan of like dark colors. I mean, I like
Mm,
some dark colors, but yeah, I'm gonna have a pop of bright in there.
mhm,
Um, and I've honestly just kind of gotten to more pastel colors
mhm,
and neutral-ish for me. But yeah, I'm definitely drawn to like purples, pinks, blues, teals, things like that.
mhm.
Hot.
I am find myself I always used to say I love red. Red was my favorite color, and then one day I realized, "Oh my god, it's not. It really isn't my favorite color because I have almost no red in my clothing. I have no red in my house. I have no red in my yarn, really. I mean, like, I don't have any red. How do I say red is my favorite color? And blues. I'm the same way with blues. I think it's the calming tones.
Mhm.
And then anything beach related. I
Yeah.
don't have any beach decoration in my house. My house looks like I live in the North Woods still. But I love those beachy tones, those really calming kind of sit on the beach and watch a sunset tones.
Yes, yes.
They're
And if
just so nice.
like if you walk through my house, I have a lot of turquoise, teal,
Mhm.
and things like that. So yeah, I'm definitely in gray. Gray is actually one of my favorite colors. I love gray. Gr-
Isn't it pretty? And
It
depending on the tone that you use, it can be absolutely stunning.
it really can. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Do you ever okay, I just is off-white a thing that you dye, or is it just the way the yarn comes?
So yarn, usually depending on what base it is, but like the super merino wools, it comes in like an off-white. If off-white and cream had a baby, that would be the
Okay, okay. That
so
makes sense. Well, that's cool. So, let's just go. I usually try to keep my videos between 30 to 45 minutes, so we're hitting the 30-minute mark. I do want to make sure that people have the chance to really hear from you. What pain points do you feel that you hit for people looking to either purchase hand dyed yarns or are looking for a community to get involved with?
I feel like when it comes to the yarns, it's I'm really targeting crocheters because that's who I am. I'm a crocheter,
Mhm.
and that's why I carry worsted weight. I know for me it was really hard. I feel like a lot of dyers are carrying more and more worsted weight, or I'm now I'm now in front of more dyers that
Okay.
I've gotten to know more, and they carry worse weight. So I feel like for that, um,
Sure.
and then to the colorful, I know some of the yarn dyers that I follow, they have a lot of like neutral colors and things like that.
Mm,
So I feel like I'm gonna give you like a lot of bold colors,
mhm,
that. And I'm also an enabler. So I'm going to like help you find patterns and all of that
mhm,
stuff. Then with like my yarn club, it's a community of people that just get you. They
mhm.
just you can pop in there and be like, oh, this is what I'm working on, and we're gonna all ooh and all over it. Or you just don't have to. I know for the longest time for me, I felt so alone because I didn't know anybody around me that crocheted or knit or even cared about yarn. And so
Mhm.
the online community for me was a way of like speaking the language with somebody besides my husband that's like, yeah, that's good. Good job. And then online, I could just show them a picture of like, hey, look. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I want to do that. And
Yeah.
so if you're lonely and you feel like, your family, your friends just don't understand, that's kind of the community that I've wanted to make.
That's awesome. When you said that your husband doesn't understand what you do, I think a lot of us deal with that in our lives because I know when I initially got into really pursuing crocheting and yarn, because when I lived in Wisconsin for 3 years, I owned a yarn shop. And my dad was my bankroll, basically. I'm just going to be honest. And he opened the store for me and stuff like that. But his thing was, does string make money? And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you have no idea," because there's like a whole world of people who are buying string to make things. And so we had this yarn shop, and I did have a lot of people who, because up there, if you had a yarn shop, you had the bougie yarn, you had the really expensive stuff. And did not cater to the, hand dyed knitters. I just didn't. And I really catered to the everyday grandma who needed a place to shop in town. The people who just wanted some basic yarn. And it was a very good business. But definitely nobody understood why I wanted that. And my husband now, we've been doing this for a long time, so he gets what I'm doing and he gets my patterns and he comments and makes, when I say, "What does this look like?" He's like, "Well, I like this or I don't like that, and maybe you could do this or that." We've been, like I said, we've been doing this a long time. But um it's fun to be able to have people to, talk to and bounce things off
Yeah,
of, and to be able to feel though that you're not in competition with them either.
exactly. Yeah.
Because you said earlier, this business makes a space for everybody.
Yeah. And I feel like hand dyed yarn is just a completely different world. Look, before I started dyeing yarn, I was the girl that my favorite yarn was like I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. That was like
Yep,
my softest yarn that I felt I could find in my area.
yep.
And I was the girl that wasn't even paying full price for that. Like I didn't buy unless I had a coupon or it was on sale.
I only buy it when it's 30% off.
Yes. And
I'm
so
so cheap.
yeah, and then so to like kind of see the dire world, I'm like, these folks are crazy thinking they're gonna charge
Mhm,
that much money for yarn. And I was the girl that was just like, I'm not paying that for yarn. I can't afford
mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Now that I'm in that world, I understand. And it to me, instead of having it's more quality over quantity, and it's
yeah.
the joy. I would come home from work wanting to de-stress, and I would grab this yarn and there would be yarn barf, or it wasn't exactly the colors and it just wasn't as soft as nut. And don't get me wrong, I still had my joy with it,
Mhm.
but with hand dyed yarn, it's an experience from start
Yes.
to finish. It's you oh man, it's so soft. It's wonderful.
Mhm,
You don't have to deal with yarn barf. And it's good quality yarn that like this hat that I'm making for my husband. I have
mhm.
frogged this thing completely 3 times. I've steamed it with a hot steamer to get everything back, and it looks just as good as new. And I
Oh,
was telling another friend about that. I was like, you get some yarns that you do that with, and it's just not going to hold up. So
yeah.
to me, it's just something I do to just spoil myself. And yes, I may
Mhm.
have less yarn, but I'm really going to enjoy the process.
Yeah, I decided this year that I was going to invest in myself because I don't really do things for myself. I think we as women have a tendency to not um, do the things and take. You were saying earlier, taking care of yourself and all of that. We will push our wants and desires aside a lot of times to take care of our families or for whatever reason. And I am the queen of talking myself out of anything.
Yeah, same.
I just am. Especially if it's something that I want. I mean, I have to really want something. So this year I decided I was going to spoil myself a little bit and I was going to invest in myself a little bit. And that's why I joined your yarn club, is because I've decided that yes, this is not something I would normally do. Yes, this is usually, I would say, this is out of my wheelhouse. This is out of my price range or whatever. But I don't feel like it is, because you know what? I probably poo poo that amount of money away on specialty coffees in a month's time. So I get a few less calories and I get a lot more enjoyment.
Yeah. And that's part of the other part of the yarn club, is that it's not just yarn. Like, I also include extra goodies that I always say it's curated to spoil you. Like, I think about,
Mhm.
okay, like this time of year, and if you're a yarn club member and you haven't received your package from last month, this is your warning. Um, like
Spoiler alert.
last month I was thinking, or when I, design Januaries or come up with Januaries, I'm like, what are my people feeling right now? Well, cold. We're cold. And
Mhm.
we just got done with the holidays. So we've been pouring into everybody else.
Mhm.
We're tired.
Mhm.
So this past month, the extras were the yarn. Of course, there's the yarn. And then the
Mhm.
extras were another extra little mini hank of yarn. Cause I mean, you always want extra yarn. And then
Mhm.
it was a packet of hot cocoa. And then it was a box of these, they're called coffee toffee. It was like a gourmet. It was like 4 little pieces
Yum.
coffee, covered in dark chocolate. And so in my brain, I'm like, they're going to get this after a long
Mhm.
day of work, or just, they're tired, and they're going to be like, you know what? I'm putting my feet up. I'm going to have me some hot chocolate, and I'm going to work on my project. And I'm just going to like, just take that 15 minutes, 30 minutes to just be completely selfish and unwind. And so
Mhm.
that's what I try to do, is when it come up with the extras, it's like, how can I spoil them? Oh, they got a cute little stitch marker or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's about taking that and just doing something for you for once.
It's a thoughtfulness.
Yes. Yeah.
That's something that, like, I gather from, everything that I've been watching in your group and everything that I've been looking at online, is that there's a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into what you do.
Yeah.
You're not just here spitting out stuff because you think it's cool. You are actually, like, you think everything through.
Too
And
much.
that I mean, some of us have problems with that, but it's all good in the end.
And even
Um,
my crochet pattern designs, like I want it to be something that sometimes it's going to challenge you, but there's
mhm,
a lot of like row repeats in there. I may introduce a new stitch to you, but it's
mhm,
going to be something that once you kind of like you do it just a little bit, it's going to be
mhm,
easy. It's going to be almost mindless. So you can enjoy
mhm,
your yarn and the pattern and not be so stressed out with like every row is like a new row and you're learning something new. So even with my pattern designs, I want to give you that experience of just enjoying making something beautiful with your yarn.
mhm. You struck me as kind of a process person, where you get enjoyment out of the process. Some people get enjoyment out of the digging up new patterns, and some people get enjoyment out of the finished item. But like I myself am also, I'm a process person. I enjoy the process of making the item
Yeah.
and creating.
Yep.
So, well, that's cool. Um, you also have videos on YouTube, right?
I do. Look, now some of them are really old from when I had like no equipment and they embarrass me, but I tried.
You know
I,
what? I think we all have videos like that out now.
yeah. So that's one of my goals this year, is to get more videos up, like especially some of my designs that I want to
Mhm.
get on. Because one of the pain points I hear a lot is I don't know how to read crochet patterns or
Okay.
videos. So that is one of my goals this year, is to do more and more videos, because that's how I learned. I thought I would never be able to read a crochet pattern, let alone design. And
Mhm.
it was YouTube that helped me learn all of that. And I would get a crochet pattern and I would have the video, and the next thing you know, I'm looking at the crochet pattern more than I am the video.
Mhm.
And I'm reading crochet patterns. And then the
You
next thing,
gain a confidence,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So I really want to pour into that community more.
Mhm. Um, I do wanna throw this out there. I'm sorry, my pencil. I do wanna throw this out there. If you have joined us and you have any questions for Nikki, please start putting them into the chat so that we can bring those up for her. We're gonna have, a Q&A here in just a couple minutes. But let's see, I just wanna make sure that we've pretty much hit all of the highlights. Yes. Um, so if you want to tell us where we can find you, Nikki, I'm going to make sure all of that information is going to be linked in the YouTube information below as they're watching. And please let us know what your website is, where they can find you. We're just going to say it again, where
Yeah.
they can find you for the yarn club, and then anywhere that you like, if you already have stuff on YouTube, what kind of information they can find there right now.
Okay. So I'm basically Avery Creations everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. I'm on all the places. I have a blog that has free crochet patterns on it and like tips and tricks and things like that. And that's averylinkcreations.com. And then if you are looking for my yarn, it's alcyarns.com. And then on my YouTube channel, I started a podcast. I think it was this time last year, because I was like constantly making projects and things like that and forgetting to post on Facebook and Instagram. So that's kind of my place where I'm just like, hey, this is what's going on. And I can get it all out of my system. So you can
Yeah.
my Yarn Everywhere podcast. I even have some video tutorials right now for my crochet patterns. I have a sunshine ice coffee cozy that I take you step by step through. I have some ear warmers. I think there's some hats. And then I have some like beginner, like how to hold your yarn, how to make a slip knot, how to single crochet, double crochet, all of those. Those are the ones that like, they embarrass me, but hey, it'll get you started. And then I just finished recording actually, I think I have it right here. One of my first pattern designs was this Brindley scarf.
I remember that.
And the pattern, like, oh, it was just, I didn't know what I didn't know. So
Yeah, and you gotta start somewhere.
yeah, I'm refreshing it. I have it in testing right now. And I just did a video tutorial that takes you step by step for this.
That's
So
awesome.
that once I re-release that pattern, that will be attached to this. So you can watch the YouTube video and not even buy the pattern if you don't want to, or you can use both. So that's
Mhm.
kind of like my big thing that I'm working on right now.
It is a great service to add on. I have, done the same thing with my patterns. Not all of them, obviously, because there's just too many of them. But yes, you kind of go back and you want to refresh things that you've done in the beginning. And a lot of people really find it helpful to have. Do you have something? This is confusing me. I get a lot of emails like, "Hey, do you?" Because I forgot to link in one of my things that I have the video for it. So the people that do email me, I just send them the link to the video to this particular Afghan, but they like it. It's so helpful. And I used to be kind of one of those. You said yarn snob. I was a video snob. I'm a pattern snob, I guess. I always used to think, no, I'm never making videos because what happens if the internet ever goes down and um, people need to learn how to read a pattern. And I still believe that people should learn how to read a pattern, but I'm far less militant in my thinking. And, I can see the benefits of it because I've used it myself. And so it's a good thing to have in your repertoire for sure.
Because I'm a shower, not a teller. If it
Uh-huh.
wasn't for my pattern testers, nobody would be able to use my patterns, because how to do something all day long. But if you're like, tell me how to do this, I'm like, So if somebody needs help, having that video there instead of me being like trying to Nikki them, and they're just like, what are you even talking about? And then also somebody that has ADHD, and I
Mhm.
struggle with a little bit of dyslexia. And I honestly think it's just my brain moves too fast sometimes and I switch letters around. So reading crochet patterns, even though I'm even a crochet pattern designer, reading
Mhm,
crochet patterns is still really hard for me because I flip
mhm,
things around
mhm.
and I don't pay attention. So I'm a skimmer. I'm just like, "Ah, oh, I got this." And then I'm
I
three
do the
rows.
same thing.
So if I watch a video, it clicks, whereas looking at it on paper, it doesn't. And I've been doing this for, I don't even know, since 2016. So I feel like I should know, but seeing
Yeah,
it, I'm just like, oh, that's it. That's what I was missing. So I
yeah.
kind of want to have that for, for everybody. I just want to make them user friendly, maybe challenge the beginners a little bit, but also like the people that are intermediate, like just make it easier for them if they don't
Mhm.
want to think and they don't want to look at a pattern.
Yeah, okay, that makes absolute sense. I completely agree with it. Alrighty, so I think don't have any questions that have popped up, but I will pop up a couple of things that have been said while we are talking. Amanda said, "I love how you said yarn snob."
Hey,
Can
man.
can anybody else relate?
Yes.
Um, let's see. And Sharon wanted you to know you're learning so much with your husband's hat, and she applauds you for your tenacity.
Yes. I'm learning patience more than anything.
And then Amanda and Sharon both wanted you to know that you are definitely an enabler.
Welcome.
Amanda says you're definitely my enabler, Nikki, and Sharon says you're the queen of enabling. So if you want to be enabled, make sure that you are following Nikki because she will help you with that. So, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for allowing me to ask you questions and for having this chat with us and letting us know a little bit more about you. I appreciate the time that you were willing to sow into this.
Well,
And yes, and I hope that you reap great rewards from it and that people get to know you a little bit better. I feel like this is a really great chat.
thank you. I really enjoyed it. I really did.
Me too. And we will talk again in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take Nikki off and we're going to finish up this video. Thank you so much for joining me for today's The Buzz with Busy Crochet. I hope that you enjoyed our chat with Nikki. I know that I did. I learned so much, and I hope that you did as well. And make sure that you visit her website and you get a look at her yarn. It's beautiful. She has great colors. She always has great color combinations as well. And that you get on the list if you don't have the ability to join her yarn club while it's open till Saturday, the 4th of 2023, then you make sure that you get on her wait list so that you know when the next opening happens. All right. So don't take that. Don't miss the opportunity to get a part of that. All right. I will see you guys the next time. Enjoy your day.